And if you've seen the morning papers, you know that they'll have to arrest somebody, sooner or later. The town's gone crazy. The middle of a bright afternoon, a house full of people, and a helpless old woman killed with an axe. It doesn't make sense, but there it is. So they pick on Jim, of all people, I said bitterly. Jim's all right so far. People don't go to the chair simply because they are remembered in wills. It's that infernal chest, they're opening it this morning. That's what the servants say. Lizzie was over there at the crack of dawn. Lizzie, as I may have said, is a sort of major domo at the Talbots. She had been there for 30 years, first as George's nurse and later on as an underpaid and overworked pensioner, a tall gaunt woman who, like Lydia, missed nothing of what happened to us. In fact, they were not unlike, and between them they formed a sort of machine, Lizzie collecting small items of interests and Miss Lydia disseminating them. You think it may be gone? I asked weakly. I'm trying not to think that, Lou. But listen, George, I saw Jim when he left that house. He hadn't a thing in his hands. He shook himself impatiently. That's not the point. If it's gone, the police may wonder, well, if he ever put it in the chest at all. Don't look like that, Lou, we've got to face it. Why should Mr. Lancaster have sent for Jim yesterday, if he didn't think something was wrong? It wouldn't be so hard, under the circumstances. Just the two of them in that room and a little act of substitution. He carried it out in a bag, and if he had another bag ready, filled with silver dollars for instance. I was too horrified to speak, and George leaned over and touched my hand. I had known him all my life, and he had grown into a not unattractive man of the heavy-chested middle-height type, the sort that has to shave twice a day and still has a blue-black look about the jaw. But his eyes were still the eyes of the boy I used to play with, and now they were filled with pity. I'm sorry, Lou. I thought maybe we could work this out together, but I've only scared you to death. I know damned well he never killed her. But something queer has been going on around here for the last few weeks. And if you don't believe it, look here. He reached into his pockets and pulled out a shining new $20 gold piece. I picked this up back in no man's land, about 10 days ago. I'd lost a ball, hooked it into the trees toward Euclid Street, and I'd turned over some grass and found this. Of course it may not mean anything, but there it is. Thank God I found it and not Dalton. It might as easily have been him. And then and there I told him about what I had seen the night before. It seemed to stun him as much as it had stunned me, and he sat thinking for some time. Then he said abruptly, "I wouldn't tell the police that, Lou." "Why not?" "I don't want to, but if they arrest Jim Wellington." "They won't arrest him." "Not yet anyhow." "No, it looks to me as though, you saw Dalton last night when I said I'd seen him at the woodshed that morning, didn't you?" "If you saw his face you know he was scared. He'd never have taken the axe, at that hour." But he was not listening. "Look here," he said, "do you know why the Daltons broke off diplomatic relations?" "I don't know. I believe she was jealous, or something of the sort." "Exactly. Well, Brian Dalton has been a pretty gay lad in his time, and he's not so darned old now." "What I'm wondering now is, what about this Peggy at the Lancasters?" "She's pretty and she's nobody's fool. She'd know about the chest, of course. She could have known also that Mr. Lancaster meant to make an inventory yesterday, the telephone's in the hall. And she'd have several chances every week to get an impression of that lock. You know, wiping the floor, or dusting under the bed. You see what I mean?"